Coming up on The Source.
This woman has that level of power.
It's Delaware, to be honest. It's a very small place. And everyone runs in different circles.
Miss Torres and Mr. Torres have provided me with all the proof to every claim they had against her.
Not my kids.
Well,
My
that, as a
kids.
matter of fact, she owned most.
That's one of them, and it's just unfortunate. Really not for taking up for city council people, but what I do want to say is that we were told by staff, or specifically me, as someone who started a task force, that task force do not get that type of support.
If we, the black folks, are not doing what we need to do, we're going to expose that too.
And if I have to, a lot of people are not going to like me in this process, and I'm okay with that.
The House, it's going to be a little different, right? And build more awareness around one date, pushing more people out to the polls, encouraging more people to come out and vote.
Good evening. This is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
Tanae Darby.
And welcome to The Source. Many of you have been calling, texting. We've been seeing a lot of hits on our show about what's going on with this racism on Delaware Avenue, 1800 block. And let me just be very straight with you as we're going to get into a discussion. We're not going to let this go. We have so many things we are unearthing. We are seeing things. We are hearing about things that we didn't know about. And we're going to discuss that today. So please make sure you let somebody know that we are talking about it even today. Kobe, you said something to me before we went on the air that kind of troubled me. And I hope that you're not just saying it, but you're telling me that this Natalie, who is the attorney, and I never could pronounce her name right, so I'm not even going to try to, but you'll see her name on the screen, that she works even in the state.
Yes, she works for state government for the Delaware State House.
So what
As an attorney.
What does she do?
She's an attorney for them. She's actually the head attorney.
She's the head attorney. Kobe, because I didn't get a chance to do any research on what you just said, please don't fail me now. Are you telling me the exact truth?
Yes.
This woman has that level of power. First of all, she has an issue with the Bar Association, where the Bar Association said to this family, hey, we don't see any harassment here. All right. Then we're dealing with the city of Wilmington, where I did have a conversation with the police chief and the captain. They're looking into all of her concerns. They're doing their investigative work. And we're going to wait to see what they do before we do any reaction. But then you got the city of Wilmington, the mayor's office, well, shall I say, the commissioner of L&I, and he sends out people in the middle of the night to figure out he has not returned my call. Do you know how I get in touch with him?
No, I have no clue.
Okay, well, Mr. Boykins, I've called you 3 times. I've left 3 messages. I hope you'll call us back. But you got all of these issues, and then Christiana Carey is going to get a big issue because I've not even reached out to them yet. You have a woman who's injecting chemotherapy in the arms of some black folks, and are you sure she's doing that with her racist attitude? Do we know for sure that she can be trusted to do her job now? And you're telling me that she is a part of the state legislation? Or how could that be so?
It's Delaware, to be honest. It's a very small place. And everyone runs in different circles.
Wow. Shanae, you weren't here last week when we were going through this. So I just want to do a little update with you.
Mm-hmm.
We have a family, a Torres family. They moved into the 1800 block of Delaware Avenue, and while they were there, from the beginning, I mean, this woman, the lawyer, Natalie, she called the husband a rodent, a piece of S word, and lied. I mean, lied about scratching up of her car, playing music loud, smoking marijuana, threatening her. I asked the chief of police and I asked the captain, what proof do you have of any of her claims? Since y'all have reacted to all of her claims, and they could not provide me with any proof. However, Miss Torres and Mr. Torres have provided me with all the proof to every claim they had against her. And this woman is still walking around without any charges. What is your thoughts?
Man, it's just unfortunate that it's still happening today, and hopefully that they can get justice. Really, imagine how much more of this is happening in the city that's not able to get the
Right.
coverage. That's always what I think is that there's always one-off scenarios, but then imagine everybody else who doesn't have a voice, doesn't have advocates, don't know who to speak to expose people or expose certain situations that they're in part of. So it's frustrating.
Yeah. And I'm just at a place where I'm glad they didn't react,
Yeah.
because that was a major thing. Some of the things that were done to them, from her waiting at the end of his steps to passively aggressively say, "Oh, we miss you," and all this other stuff, and then cuss him the way she did, and treat them and handle their 14-year-old son. That was
That's the
my
thing.
red.
No, not my kids.
Well,
Not
that
my
as a matter of
kids.
fact, she almost reacted
Not my kids.
inappropriately when Natalie was really going at her son. But she was able to hold her composure and send her son into the house. But that's where I thought it crossed the line beyond
Yeah.
just
And
harassment.
then even hearing how connected the two white women or one of them are to like different systems is just, to me, it's just like the issue of Delaware.
Mm.
Like, you're so connected, no one wants to hold them accountable. And I'm just seeing that in so many avenues and ways. And that's one of them. And it's just unfortunate.
Well,
So
if they think, I think what a lot of people do not know about me is that I stick with something until to the end. And what happens in our community with so many of the organizations that we have here, they get a side meeting with, whether it be the mayor or whether it be the chief of police, they cut a deal and they done with it. We're not. The chief, not the chief, but the captain wanted this family to sit down. Let's have a kumbaya moment. And the Teresa said, absolutely not. Because if they would have done this to them, it would have been you going
from
to
day
jail.
one,
You're
from
going
day
to jail.
one, the
Yeah.
first incident would have been jail.
Yeah.
Mm.
So what I'm hoping for and what we're hoping for is that the law is followed. What happens when racism occurs? What happens when a person is harassed? And whatever happens, it's followed. And the Attorney General has not returned my call. Do you have a way of getting in touch with the Attorney General?
Don't just simply going through the civil rights division, honestly, would be the best option.
Well, it ain't happening. So I'm hoping that we're going to see. And I told them on the Coffee with Curry, this show that came on earlier today, that you know what, whatever we have to do, we're going to do it, and we're not going to be illegal. And it's not illegal to shut 95 down. No, it's not. And so many people are calling me. So many people are saying, Pastor Curry, thank you. Thank you for sticking with it. Thank you for not being a part of the system of black folks who just do things and then get a chill and then move on. I'm going to make sure. I'm going to make sure that we hold this and we're going to watch every step. And we're going to not only watch it, but we're going to record it and we're going to share it with the group, with those who are watching us. What is happening with Natalie first? She is the prime target because she's the one who's created all of this monster. And as Ms. Therese said, she poked the wrong bear. Racism is real in Delaware. It's real in the city of Wilmington, and we overlook it because it's not happening to us at the moment. But in this case, it is not going to go away. Now, real quick, so who do I need to contact in the State House to get her removed? That's public dollars. She should not be nowhere near working with anything being a racist.
That would be House leadership.
House leadership,
Mhm.
we will get on the phone with them, and I'm letting you all know, I'm asking these questions in front of you because I'm going to get on the phone with House leadership and some of the representatives who are part of this community. I'm going to get on the phone with. They have to call for her resignation or her removal. I don't think it's a resignation needed. She just needs to be removed because this is just inappropriate. And also the Bar Association, we had a letter where they said there was no harassment and that's something that they just need to have a conversation with. I want to really deal with that Bar Association because too many black folks can't even pass the test. So something is going on with even the Bar Association.
Mhm.
And Christiana Care, we're going to have that conversation. They have an imaging issue already. And for them to have a woman and the level of, she's with the Helen Graham, I believe, Cancer Center, and she's helping cancer patients. And you know, in the African American community, a lot of us have that sickness. I really want to make sure that they know who they got working for them and whether or not she should still be in that position.
Mhm.
Are there any comments that either one of you have at this point regarding this issue as we're continuously to investigate?
No, we're going to be following this very closely, and hopefully we see action very soon.
Yeah, and I mean very soon.
Accountability.
Well, for those of you who are watching, I just want to make sure that I'm very clear. we are going to see accountability. I'm not going to talk too much because I did get an opportunity to have a conversation with the chief of Wilmington Police Department, and I was very impressed with the fact that he did immediately meet with me before he even saw all of this coverage, and he did try to give me some assurances that he was going to follow the law, and that's all we care about. We don't care about doing a buddy system. We want you to follow the law, and he said he would definitely make sure he holds his department accountable for that, and we're going to make sure that we honor and watch it to see if it happens. And no, we're not interested in any conversations with Miss Judy or with Miss Natalie, because they've done what they've done, and they've gotten away with it thus far. But now it's time for accountability. So for those of you who've been watching, thank you so very much. For those of you who have signed up to be a part of watching The Source from this point forward, we appreciate you so much. And we're not doing this to get a big name for ourselves. We're really doing this because we want to expose. And I hope that some of the other African-American groups will start doing things that will help to bring some relief to the African-American community, because our community is suffering beyond just racism, but a lot of it is a result of racism. And it starts even in the mayor's office, as well as in other areas throughout our city. And I hope and trust that you all will continue to watch us as we continue to move forward. Let me move to our last item that we're going to talk about in this segment of the show, and then we are going to go on. My girl, I was a young kid. I was a young girl. I wasn't a young girl. I was a young. She was an older lady, but I was a young brother being reared in the heart of the ghetto. And we used to always hear Tina Turner songs, and she's gone home, as we say in the church, to be with the Lord. But she died just a couple of days ago at the age of 83. And Tina is my girl. I mean, I don't know. You may be too young to know anything about Tina, but you probably know her music.
Tina.
You know of Tina. But
Yeah.
what you know about Tina, other than she's a strong Black woman?
Yeah. I know Tina. I know some of her music and who she was. Of course, I heard her music growing up and
Yeah.
stuff.
What's love got to do?
Like,
What's love got to do?
I wouldn't say like, oh my gosh, I'm putting on Tina tonight, like, but I know who Tina is.
But as strong as you are as an African American woman, you would put her music on, because but that whole thing about what's love got to do with, she had just come out of an abusive relationship. She rebounded. Matter of fact, they even talked about her being on food stamps. She decided that she had to leave this abusive man, and he took everything but her name.
But I think she owned that, right? And she used that to build her own power as she rebuilt herself coming out of a relationship like that. She was, a once in a generation performer, singer. But also I think outside of that, outside of the entertainment realm and stuff, the impact that she had on communities was very tremendous as well.
Yeah, and she really did. I mean, she hit some hard moments, but she showed what a true Black woman is, and that is one who is resilient, one who bounces back. And what we're going to do is we're just going to take a moment and allow our behind the scene group to just play a little bit of her music, especially what's love got to do with it, because that was my personal one. And I would say that when people would say I love you and then they stab you, what's love got to do with it? We'll be right back.
You must try to ignore that it means more than that. Oh, what's love got to do with it? What's love but a second-hand emotion? What's love got to do with it? Who needs a heart when a heart can be broken? You're simply the best, better than all the rest, better than anyone I've ever met.
And we're back. Well, what's going on with Shanae Scoop? You've been away for a couple of weeks, so we want to see what's going on.
Got a couple.
Yeah.
Probably 1 week.
Was it one? Okay.
Yeah, I think it was one. But
It seems like eternity when you're not
I
here.
know. But I'm really excited to hear that Delaware community centers throughout the state got about $70 million in pandemic relief grants. A lot of the community centers were hit hard by COVID and lost a lot of revenue. So I was excited to see FAME formed to advance minorities in engineering, because they actually bought a building in my district on Baynard Boulevard, and they're converting it to a learning lab. So they got about $7 million. Christian and Culture Arts Center's got $4.5 million. Yeah, they need it. Northeast Wilmington's Kingswood Community Center, the Boys and Girls Clubs, 9 of them got $1.6 million. The only thing I was kind of disappointed, I was like, where the PAL Center at? I don't know if you guys missed the grant application.
I missed it too, because we have a center over here, and I didn't even know anything about it.
Yeah, that was like money.
it's a two-phase thing. This is the first phase that they raised out. So there was individuals that were invited to submit applications for this funding. So no one missed out on it.
Okay.
But there's going to be additional rounds that are open over the next month or so, especially leading towards June 30th, for community centers, organizations, nonprofits to apply for.
Please make sure you
different
keep me
type of
informed
Yes.
for that
Yes.
because I want to make sure our center gets something
Get something.
out
You
of
need
that
at least
because
2 million. You
yeah,
know
yeah.
something.
Yeah. Okay, you're so excited. I hope that 1 million, I get 2 million.
Okay, 2 million.
And this is all the vast majority of this money is for capital projects.
Oh, that's even better.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sure you understand the struggle.
Especially with the Pal Center, what they're trying
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
I'm sure you understand the struggle of
Yes.
finding that capital dollar
Yes.
funds versus the like regular operating and program funds,
Right.
which are more readily available, especially through grants and stuff like that. So whenever these type of opportunities open up, you have almost everyone is nipping at it to try to get some funds.
Well, it's funny because we didn't do our pool. That needs to be
Right.
done. We got a little mortgage on there. It's so many things that needs to be done to help augment the programs you have. So I'm with that, and I'm glad to hear that. So that's why I'm learning stuff on the show as things
Yes,
happening,
I love
and I
it.
will definitely be following.
For the next round.
That's right. Or
So
if
I
I can
hope
fly
that
now,
Pal gets
fly
into
now.
the next round because that's like the closest, like outside of Fame.
Yeah.
Like that's the closest community center.
Yeah.
So I've
And
been
they
trying
do a
to.
good job over
Yeah, I've been trying to like utilize them more, to build a relationship with the
Yeah.
director. Like I'm trying to do that as like the closest community center that we have on this side or for the second district. So I'm excited to hear about this. It was from Governor Carney through the ARPA funds, the American Rescue Plan money, and it was for, like you said, capital projects fund. So I'm excited to hear that they were able to help. It's really for the youth, for the kids, right?
And they're going to have more funding as well too, that deals with if you're a center, right, and you deal with food insecurities, right? If you have a pantry, if you want to develop a pantry and stuff like that, the funding is going to be coming out. I know also coming down from the federal level for opportunity funding is around housing. So if the centers like West End Neighborhood House, like they're getting more and more into. I mean, they have a great
Housing stuff.
portfolio, but
Yeah.
they're building more and more. That's what they're looking for too.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's
Good.
good stuff going on. And then last week we voted on the budget for city council. So I kind of want to hit on that and kind of recap. So one of the legislations that we reviewed last week was around increases in certain fees and fines. So almost every single business fee got some type of increase in the it was from $30 to almost as near as like almost $800, $900 increases for some people's fees. And one of the major ones was about rental license fees, and they were going to increase it to $100 where it was usually I wish I had it in front of me, a one-time fee, and then $10 after that, after you pay for like the first few of them, and then you'll do $10 after that. So, but I do agree there needed to be some type of increase, right? I do believe that. Looking at other cities and the fees and fines they had, or not fines, but the fees they had, we weren't compatible. Like we needed to increase it some. But the reasoning is for me. The intention is for me, right? That's what I'm focused on. The city was really focused on increasing fees for revenue,
Okay.
right? And fees for cities for services like this should not be for revenue. It should be, how do we increase services? How do we make things better for the city, right? And there was no connection to that for me. So I have voted no to that particular legislation because it was just a lot of promises. Because I believe if we're going to increase, let's say, rental license fees, then we need to make the process better for a landlord to come in and get a business license. They should be able to go online and apply, right? It's still like a very antiquated system. Sometimes they got to come in. The application is lost. They mailed it in. Now they got to go to floor 2, floor 3, floor 4, 5, 6, just to get certain things. And they ain't going to not. Don't deny. Right. So that was really my issue or problem with that. So I have voted no to that, and I hope that we can come back at the table because it's not done. The conversation still has to happen. And I was able to establish a fees and fines task force commission. Fees and task force, not a commission, but a fees and fines task force. And what's really cool about that too, I have been like fighting with staff for the last few weeks about task force need to be public. right? So they weren't held publicly, right? So a lot of the task force meetings we have another task force, the reparations task force. They had a few meetings, but it wasn't public, meaning it wasn't in the committee room. It wasn't being recorded by WITN. And I had to fight for those things to happen. So I'm excited that people will now be able to see the task force, the fees and fines, and even more importantly for me is the reparations one, but that's a whole nother convo.
Yeah, you're on that committee, aren't you?
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
on that committee. Yeah, because if I can listen to a reparations task force in California,
Mhm.
I should be able to hear the one here in
Okay.
Wilmington,
Right.
right?
It's disappointing
So-
that city council didn't want those to be publicized at all.
Well, why would you say it's disappointing when you got a group of people who want to do what one
Well-
person says, and they don't want to be here where all the things is going?
Exactly.
Really not for taking up for city council people. But what I do want to say is that we were told by staff, or specifically me, as someone who started a task force, that task force do not get that type of support. We can't have meetings in the committee room, and they can't be recorded by WITN, right? So when they told me that, sometimes people, like, your doctor tells you something and that's end all be all. Sometimes that's how people are, right? And I don't think the staff knew, because I had to, and I hate to do this, but after going back and forth with them about it, I was just like, you know what? I'm a legislated. I had to flex my little bit of power I got, right?
And good job.
And I hate to have to do that to prove a point or anything, but I had to just legislate it. So when I did that, they started doing the research and found out that task force are foilable and should be in the committee room, and they have an option to be recorded. But if I never push back on them,
you're giving people who don't have power more power by doing what you're doing.
right?
Because what's happening is now, if it got a FOIA or something, we got the proof that we've been complaining about this, that, or the other, and the city has done nothing, or this group has done nothing, and this committee has not been given the appropriate power. This is excellent.
Yes,
This
and
is
commissions too. So I
Yes.
wasn't even thinking about commissions. I just thought about task force. But
Okay.
when they was like, commissions are foiable too, I'm like, we have a civil rights commission. I don't know what other commissions we have, but those commissions should be able to be foiable. Everyone should have access to that information. And now I'm going to push on the recording piece, because they're giving people an option to be recorded or not recorded. And there should not be an option.
Not if you're serving
Everybody
the
should be
public.
recorded.
Not if you're serving the public.
Not if
That's
you're serving the public, and we have to vote. If city council has to vote for it to exist, then it's public business.
That's right. Absolutely.
Right? And I'm all about transparency and making sure people have all the information that they need, and it's accessible to everybody. I hate when it's only, I don't want to just, oh my gosh, I just have my task force. No, everybody needs to see what I'm doing
Absolutely.
as a public official. So that was the fees and fines. And then next we had, we voted mostly yes on the budget stuff, but I really didn't see a lot of reform for LNI on the Wilmington Police Department. Last year we were on a big thing. We need an external audit. We need an external audit on Wilmington PD. They never did it. This year, City Council was quiet on that. Why aren't we pushing for that? Right? And that's why they're not going to take us serious, because we'll say it one time, and then the second time it's, oh, okay, all right, y'all don't got to do it. We're not going to force it. Right? So those things are what really, it drives me crazy. I'm like, how are we pushing for this last year and don't say anything this year, and they never did it? So for me, I had voted no to the overall budget, because I feel like we can do more. There's so much more we could do, and we did not push that needle or thread for me. It was a little bit better than other budgets. It was a little bit more progressive, a little more things around housing I think was good. We have a housing opportunity fund that was established by Mayor Baker. We were able to finally put money, I think $2 million into that. City Council got a little bit more money, discretionary funds to give out to the community.
It was
So there
one,
was
it was
some
one
good
thing
things.
that you said that y'all was not going to vote yes on until it's get back in the
The
budget.
housing opportunity fund.
Oh, so they got it.
They got it in there.
Oh, they stuck together.
I'm excited about that. So that's what I'm saying. There are some really good things. There's some things, but for me, it wasn't enough to say yes to the budget. So I had voted no. And then water was a big thing this year. So City Council wanted to make a legislation that says we only review and vote on water rates every 3 years, right? And this legislation was not about the community. It was about City Council. They said that they're not able to take the politics out of voting. So to take the politics out of voting, and instead of doing it every year, they wanted to do it every 3 years to lessen the politics. But their argument makes no sense, because then they wanted to put it in the hands of the CAB, the Citizens Advisory Board. The people who sit on the Citizens Advisory Board are appointed by elected officials. How are you taking the politics out of water bill rates? Because every year water bill rates are going to increase. They told us that there's no end to it. Every year we're going to see an increase. And doing it every 3 years is not going to like lower the rates. Like it's not about affordability, because when they use those things, I'm like, please stop saying that, because this is not what this is about. It's not about affordability. It's that you don't want city council to be having these conversations and feel that pressure every year from the community about water billing, right? And then the fact that you can't take politics out of it is concerning for me.
Mm-hmm.
As an elected official, I can take the politics. I'm going to do the right thing no matter what, and I don't care who. What, I'm going to do the right thing. Great legislation is for my community, is for my people. I'm going to say yes to it. The fact that our city council can't do that and they want to legislate because they can't do it is problematic for me.
Yeah, and if you wanted me to answer the question of why you keep being the target, well, you got to stop being so smart. That little temple education is messing you up.
Oh my goodness.
Because you obviously are asking the right questions. I'm with you. I agree with you're able to see if a person is going to appoint a committee, and all they're going to do is raise the bills. It just takes the pressure off of them. Keep the pressure where it belongs.
Yeah, the pressure needs to be on us.
So I'm with you. I do what I'm doing because I like for you all to see why people hate certain people. Not because they are really bad people, but because they're messing with their agenda. That's the truth. I don't want to take too much of your time. Go ahead.
I have to talk about the rest of this budget, because what really got me after this is that he ended up pulling the legislation. So I made my comments. Councilmember Nathan Field was like, let's put a hold on it. And then Councilmember Johnson was like, I'll just hold my legislation, right? Because I guess a lot of people had questions or thoughts too. And I was the only one who really said anything. But right after that, we go to the next legislation. And this one is about establishing a permanent water utility assistance program, right? Which I'm in favor of. In theory, I'm in favor of it. Let's have because we have a water utility assistance program now, but it's not a city established one. We got money from ARPA, from different places, and then we created this fund, from the pandemic to help people who are past due in debt on their water bill. So I'm like, cool, let's do it. Let's establish a permanent water bill program. But however, they're doing it, and it's very could be loosely interpreted to who can apply. It doesn't protect renters. There's so many issues within that legislation, and they're hoping that it goes through the admin board. So after we pass it, and then we'll go through the admin board, which is on the administration side. And they want them to come up with the criterias and the more requirements on who can apply, how people can apply, and things like that. And my problem is, why don't we do that now as a city council instead of putting it in the hands of the administration, who always had that water assistance ability program and never did things to protect renters? They didn't do that before. What makes us think they're going to do it now, right? They promise all these things, and then when we get there, we forget about it. I'm going to show up at the admin board. Right, I'm putting legislation for amendments to the water permanent assistance program, and I also think the focus should not be on that. We need to talk about why people are falling into debt anyway. Right, we're not having a conversation about affordability. That is not about affordability. That's about providing relief to people. Right? Okay, cool. We can provide relief. I'm in support of that, but we have to talk about why people are even falling to that point. We know there's a group of people who can't afford it. Every week or every month, I get a 96-hour water shut-off notice of all the residents who are going to get their water shut off. Wow. We know there's people who cannot pay for it. I have been asking for an affordability study since last year. I keep getting the runaround. And now you have council for, we should do an affordability study. I've been saying this, it's been on the committee floor, and y'all have not been supporting it.
So are they going to support it now?
I hope so, because I'm about to call they bluff.
Okay, well, call the bluff.
When I tell y'all I am on fire after this budget hearing, I am on fire, and then other things that are just going on. You
can't say you're on fire. You're always on fire.
I'm on fire because I'm not going to lie. I kind of chilled out. I kind of chilled out for a little bit because I felt like a lot of things were just happening. A lot of people weren't listening or paying attention. So I kind of just chilled out and did my thing on the low. But now I'm about to be more vocal with what I'm doing again, because there's a lot of things that's quite frankly just frustrating me in the best way and I love cussing without cussing.
Oh yeah, don't cuss.
I'm not. And so that's really the city council budget. And I do want to hit on one more piece of legislation. It's the rent escrow legislation, which I'm excited about. That's being led by Councilmember McCoy. And Councilmember McCoy is making amendments to something we already have. So back in the 90s, I don't know who was on council. I was a little toddler. And they established a rent escrow account. But we have there's some money in it, but we can't even figure out who put money into this account on the city level. Like, we have really never used the rent escrow. So the purpose of it is saying, I am a renter. My landlord isn't fixing my heat. Right? And I need to put my money up somewhere in the meantime until he fixed the heat. I can go to the city and the city will have an account and hold that money from me. Right? And what it is now, because Councilmember McCoy's legislation didn't pass yet, is that it will go through them. But there was a municipal court piece in the legislation. we know in the 90s, we got rid of our municipal courts, right? So the process just didn't make sense. So there had to be amendments that needed to be made to take out the municipal court and just make it a rent escrow program that fits into the structure of our city council now. So Councilmember McCoy was able to do that. But one thing that really, and there's some things she needs to fit in there with time frames and numbers. I hope we don't rush it. I want it to be like well thought out and make sure it doesn't violate the state Delaware tenants landlord tenant code. I don't want it to violate that, and then I also want it to have time frames that make sense. But the one piece that stands out for me, and the law department keeps saying that it violates the landlord tenant code, but I want to push back on this a little bit, is that this currently, if you put money into the rent escrow, your landlord doesn't fix it in a certain amount of time, the city can then take that money and fix it, or they can contract it out to get it fixed.
What
So
are they
they're
saying
saying
violates?
they didn't say specifically, but that is what I am getting, and I'm waiting for. I need more. Like I need more. I need to understand more.
Do you think with her legislation, she just needs? Is it? I believe, if I remember correct, landlord tenant code says you can put up to $400 in a rent escrow account if you have any major issues, right? And they have like
Right.
a long list of like what qualifies. I know there's been a lot of debate about rent escrow, not just in Wilmington, but all across the state.
Yeah.
At the state level and other municipalities, the issue has been, should the renter get to pay their full amount of rent, because rent has skyrocketed since they set this 100, right? Right. It's skyrocketed since then. Should they be able to put their entire rent in, or is it still only that $400 limit?
So that's the argument. That's what she's adding to make sure it follows the landlord tenant code, because it's not going to be the full amount right now. Like you're not going to be able to put the full amount of rent in there. So that's unfortunate, but that's also connected to State Representative Sherry Dorsey Walker's legislation, where she will be making amendments to that. So she says she's making amendments to in her rent escrow legislation to the landlord tenant code, where they can put the full amount in there. Right. So we need her legislation.
State court operated system.
Yeah, hers has to be state court. Yeah.
Or the Wilmington one taking it out, because we have no municipal courts. Would it be L&I that?
Yep, it would be L&I.
Which we already know the issues there. So the bill that Sinead's talking about is HB 37.
Yep. So hopefully that passes, but it hasn't even left committee yet. But we're hoping that we can get it pushed out. Hopefully this month. I don't know.
We only got a month. But it may get done, but sometimes things take time, but we want to make sure we like to see the work, and the work is being done.
Yeah, the work is going on.
Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back and let you do your last point, because I think it's a very important one.
Okay.
And that is because I don't want to rush you, but we're out of time for this segment. We'll be right back. And we're back. We just want to we'll finish up with Sinead's scoop, because she had one more item that she wanted to talk about, and I want to make sure she gets the opportunity. So what's going on?
Yeah, no. So over the last few weeks, I have been doing a lot of probing, investigating, really just looking at organizations in the state of Delaware who are supposed to be serving Black folks. So I think a lot of people reach out to me because I'm a city council person, I'm a community organizer, I run my nonprofit, and they expect me to know things. So 3 people I don't know reached out to me and asked me about specifically the Wilmington NAACP branch, right? And after the 3rd time, I said, I think I should know. Like, I should know something. I should be able, because I kept hearing, no one ever really gave me a clear, definite, like, answer on, like, is the chapter running? Is it not running? Who's the president? Who's not the president, right? Always got runarounds, right? And I actually received, and I did not join an NAACP because I asked. I didn't join the NAACP because I wanted to or anything. I was gifted a card, right? And the card said Newark branch, which I can't be a part of the Newark branch because according to the bylaws, I don't live or work there. So that was a violation there. But with me knowing I had a membership card, I need to figure out who was the Wilmington NAACP branch. So I found out that the president lived on my block, and I knocked on his door. What's up? When's the next meeting, right? So I started asking.
No, with all transparency, let's just be straight, because we do it when we're dealing with white folks, so we're going to do it when we do it with Black folks. Who is the president?
Oh, Charles Brittingham is the president.
Okay. For the Wilmington.
For the Wilmington NAACP branch.
All right.
And after much probing and reading the bylaws, because I am let's be transparent and let's follow the rules. I am that type person. Like, follow the rules, do the right thing. Like, because this organ, and what gets me so heated or passionate about this is that I want to be a part of organizations that are doing the right thing and that are about the community and people, and I don't see that
Okay.
at all, right? And it's really frustrating. I don't want to be a part of a branch in Newark. I'm not saying I don't care about Newark, but that don't got nothing to do with me,
Right, right.
right? I love where I grew up. I love where I live, and this is my city. This is what I care about, and this is where I want my impact to be right now,
Okay.
right? So to not have access to the Wilmington NAACP branch as a member was frustrating. So I switched my membership over, and then the argument is nobody wants to be a part or join. That's not true. After doing a lot of research and reaching out to people, people have tried to be a part of the branch and state committee and have been shunned out.
Oh, really?
Yes. I was told that I received a membership branch because they handpick people, and I am not a handpicked Negro. You can't handpick me. You can't give me, I don't care what color you are.
Okay.
You cannot handpick me and think that I'm going to get along with the get along and then try to offer me to be a chair over a committee for the Women's Branch Committee and think I'm going to be in charge of it. And no offense, I love seniors, but a whole bunch of 80-year-olds who don't want to change their mind about how to run things. I'm not doing it, right? So that's the frustrating part, is the transparency on the branch level and the state level. There's no transparency to members. I have not received one notice about meetings on a branch level or a state level. I have not received the invitation to the annual convention last year when I was a member, and I have not received one this year, right? According to the bylaws, they're supposed to send out a ballot to every single member to allow them the opportunity to run for a seat. I have not received that yet. The annual convention date is supposed to be set at the last annual convention for the following year. Where's the date and time and location? Nothing. So on the branch level and the state level, there's lack of transparency to the members and there's lack of transparency to the community, right? People are confused on who is who and who is what. People are sitting on the state committee with multiple leadership roles throughout the state, and they're not supposed to do that according to the bylaws, right? I'm going by the bylaws, not by what I believe should happen, right? So those are the frustrating things to me, is the transparency to the community. And then what even made me go off even more, because I was going to go in and play dumb and act like I don't know the bylaws and I wasn't going to read. But after going and after contacting nationals and forcing the NAACP branch to have a meeting, I found out, and I don't ever want to be affiliated with something like this, where a branch is actively saying that they sit outside in their car, take pictures of individuals with drug transactions, and then they take pictures of their license plate and meet with Wilmington PD to turn in the evidence. Now, y'all need to stop. I don't ever want to be affiliated. I don't want my name on
I know
anything.
that's a little breaking news almost. Say wait, go back again, because I know you're sharing and you've presented yourself well. You're saying that, now make sure, tell me when I go wrong. You said that there's an NAACP person.
The Wilmington branch, Charles Brittingham, said this out his mouth to a group of us, because what I've been doing is I've been recruiting people. So I wasn't the only one at that meeting.
Oh.
I've been recruiting people. I got 30 people to sign up. It was 10 of us at that meeting. And he said that everybody went off, and I couldn't really speak because I had to run my nonprofits board meeting. So I'm listening in and out, like listening. And Charles Brittingham and them said that they take pictures of individuals in drug transactions because they want to clean up the streets.
Wait a minute. Okay.
And meet with Wilmington PD to turn in.
We don't have enough time in this show. We're going to come back to this point, but I want to say this to you. One, thank you for being interested. Okay, I'm a life member of the NAACP. I just got not active, but I just got activated in the state because I could not get any information from the city at all. Okay, I couldn't get any information, so I didn't know who to call, what to do, or what.
Yeah, they don't answer emails.
So I feel you on that. But this is what I want to say to those of you who are watching us. While there are some individuals who do try to represent and help Black folks from the NAACP, what Shanae is trying to make sure we bring to light, because we're not going to be a racist show. If we, the Black folks, are not doing what we need to do, we're going to expose that too. What I believe Shanae is trying to do is to say, well, you got to clean up our house because there's a lot of issues out here. There's a lot of issues. And whenever you got a person or a group of people who call themselves trying to help Black folks, taking pictures and giving it to the police to harm Black folks. I'm not saying we want drugs. We're not agreeing.
Yeah, I'm not agreeing.
We're not saying that we want violence. We're not agreeing to that. But there is so much racism, which we talked about earlier. There's so much inequities that are going on in the city. Why is that become the head thing? So what Shanae is doing now, I'm with her. And you know what? I'm going to say to you in front of everybody who's listening to me, thank you. I'm going to tell you why. Because I got put out of a minister's alliance because I believe in transparency. I believe in no, we don't let them tell us what to do. We represent our people. So to hear a younger sister, and I never thought I would be the elder statesman in the room. But to hear a younger sister who is basically saying, "No, I want to be a part of the NAACP, but it's going to have to be done right." That's what's missing in a lot of our organizations. Your question that was on the sheet for the talk today was what organizations represent black people? Well, all of these organizations are supposed to be representing them, but how many of them are truly serving the cause? And that's something we're going to have to raise, and we're going to have to put it on the agenda and
And it'll be
continue to
a
talk about.
continuous conversation
It
because
has to be.
I'm on this journey, and what I'm going to say is that things are going to change. It's like it's no way, and there's a new wave of young people and new people who want to be a part, who has been shunned out, who's willing to step up to the plate. So when you asked earlier, what happens when I back down or I go away? I'm not in this for a leadership
Okay.
role, right? I'm not looking to be the president. I don't have the time, okay, to be the president of any branch. But if I have to be, I will, right? If that's my calling. But I believe in building up other people to take up leadership roles. So I'm bringing in other people who are interested in that, right? And I'm there for guidance and support with my resources, whatever little bit of privilege I have or whatever I got, I'm willing to use it for the betterment of my people. I'm not in this for another name or title. People love names and titles. They'll get like 10 of them. I am okay being in the background, but I think I will be the voice. If I have to be, I will. And if I have to, a lot of people are not going to like me in this process, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Well, you've gotten to that place where you don't care about those type of things. But I do, like, for example, I can hear certain people saying, well, no, because the NAACP helped me. And they did. Certain places, I give Mouse credit for, he run up and down the state trying to deal with some of the racist stuff that's going on, some of the things and disparities that happen. And you got others who certainly do some committee work. But what you're after right now, we need to do things transparently. We need to make sure that we're opening up the whatever the bylaws are, we're following it. I'm not arguing with you.
And before I even go, but one last thing, because we'll continue to talk to it. I spoke to the president of the NAACP, and I spoke to the state president on the state committee to ask them, can we have transparency and can we do those things? And I'm getting pushed back on both ends.
All right. Well, we will look into it.
Okay.
And we're going to ask you to please give us an update next week when we have the show. Because again, if we're going to be a true show, if we're going to be true, then we got. If I disagree, let me disagree. But if the facts are there, we have to live with the facts. So if you're saying this is happening, we need to see what your facts are, and I need to make sure that I'm doing my work to make sure that I'm following up on that too. And don't think we are fighting against each other when it comes down to the African American groups. But honestly, we have to start cleaning the house.
We have to hold each other accountable.
And hold each other accountable.
I'm not for the mess.
Right. So both accountability is going to be very important. We'll be right back. All right, good. You got it out. And now next week, you got to come back. And we're back. Well, we've had an opportunity to hear the Sinead scoop. Now we want to hear what's going on with Kobe Corner. What's happening?
So some major news in Delaware politics happened last week.
Yeah.
Senator Tom Carper, after 50 years.
Is it 50, 50, 170? How many?
It's almost double my lifetime.
Yeah.
Is officially retiring at the end of this term. And what this is, I'm again, he's done good. He's done a lot of stuff for the state. I'm excited about the opportunity that it presents us. It presents Delaware opportunity if she decides to run for it.
She will.
Hopefully she will. To elect a black woman to the U.S. Senate, but not just any black woman, someone who has been working tremendously hard for this state prior to being in the U.S. House and all her different roles, whether it was at the Department of Labor, at a civil rights organization. She has been working very hard, and that's Congresswoman Lisa Blunt Rochester.
Yeah. She will run for it, I believe. Now, I don't have any inside scoop. She'll run for it, and she'll get it because she's
going to get it. I love it.
She's very much favored among this place. But what bothers me,
a lot of people, but I like her.
I do too. And she's too important now, and I hope you're looking at Lisa to stop by Zion Fair right now. But she certainly is certainly liked by, and she does what she says she's going to do,
Right.
and I appreciate her so very much.
And I know just on the congressional side of things, with members of Congress down there, there's different silos. And I think she has been a bridge builder. She's done a good job working with some of the more conservative members of the U.S. House and some of the most progressive members of the U.S. House on the Democratic side, and even Republican members, all appreciate the work she does and really admire her in her style of leadership as well too. I know I was talking to a friend of mine's, Congressman Maxwell Frost, who's one of the youngest members down there, and he's talked about how she's been a mentor and reached out after he won and everything. So I'm excited to see what
Yeah.
this race is about to bring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is a piece that I don't think you prepared to respond to. But then sometimes it's good to have the first, the first black
But
woman.
not the last.
But no, it won't be the last. But this,
Well,
this
first black person, period.
Yeah.
Put respect on that. And then,
But
okay.
then now there's the state. I'm hearing through the grapevine that the person who could replace Lisa Blunt Rochester would be, I guess, the first trans person
There is
openly.
so no one's announced, but I
What is
think
her
it's,
name? Because I don't have.
Sarah
yeah,
McBride.
I think
Okay,
it's
Sarah
pretty well known.
McBride,
Sarah
okay.
McBride is interested in the seat, but I also
What has she done?
others are interested in the seat as well too.
But I know the politics of Delaware, and I learned it because I'm not from here. But I don't. I believe that yes, this would be a great honor for Lisa because she earned her stripes. She's got out there and she's done some wonderful things, and I'm grateful for that. But Sarah McBride, tell me, what do we know about her?
Yeah, so I like Sarah.
Okay,
I think Sarah has been an effective legislator down in the
What
General
has she been-
Assembly.
Family paid leave.
Yeah,
Like, I like her as a legislator
family
too.
paid leave,
Okay.
a lot of healthcare policy,
Okay.
a lot of civil rights policy as well too, just
Okay.
with amendments, also criminal justice as well too. And I think she came in at uh, a point in time where we saw a transition in the Delaware State Senate. We
Okay.
saw them. You had some progressive members down there, but now you see the vast majority of the legislation that's coming out of the state senate be very progressive. But she's not the only person who is looking at this seat.
But the
There's
reason why I brought that up, as if I'm slow and dumb to this, is because I know I have viewers who are making comments, and I couldn't answer. I don't know her that well, but
No,
I
no,
do
I
know,
like her.
I do know, and I know we know. That's why I brought it up, because if you didn't, you would say it, and if you didn't, you would as well. So I just want to make sure they hear, because all they're going to hear is she's a trans. That's all they're going to hear, and then they're going, oh no, 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 no. Well, let's get past that.
People is yes, 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 yes,
Oh
yes.
well, that's true. No, well,
Here's the
yeah,
thing. Look at people's records. Look
Yeah.
at what they're doing for the
Right.
community, where they've been, where
Right.
they've been showing up. I think there's going to be a lot of qualified people in this race. There's going to be a lot of people, probably, period, because everyone thinks that they can run for Congress or for Senate whenever it's an open seat. We haven't had an open seat in about, it's been 8 years now on a congressional level. It's been 14 years since we've had an open seat on a Senate level. Lisa is most likely going to clear the field on the Democratic side. Now, am I saying no one else may run in the primary? Absolutely
That's on
not.
them.
Can't control people. But Lisa will clear that field in the Senate.
Okay.
The House, it's going to be a little different.
Right.
But then also we have a lot of other open seats in 2024. We have an open governor seat, open lieutenant governor seat, open county
You
exec,
think the
county
lieutenant
council
governor
president.
should run?
Huh?
You think the lieutenant governor should run for what do you call that, for Lisa's spot?
Well, it looks like she's gearing up, and our county exec, both Bethany and Matt, are gearing up to run for governor.
Yeah, but don't you think Matt gonna get governor, or you think Matt's not gonna get governor?
I think it's going to be a battle.
Yeah,
it's
I
gonna be a
like both
battle.
of them. I like Matt and Bethany.
I just like to make the show juicy.
I
Okay,
like
next point, bro. I'm sorry.
But again, this is why it's so
Yeah.
important about getting involved, understanding who's running, understanding their platforms as well too, and voting for who you think will best serve you and your community as well.
Understood.
Speaking of elections, two things on a federal level going forward. Our presidential primary, there has been a bill filed by leadership of both chambers to change the date of our presidential primary. Our presidential primary is usually the last Tuesday, the fourth Tuesday of April. But because that is the end of Passover, there has been a bill put forth to change it with bipartisan support, leadership of all four caucuses, to change it to the first Tuesday of April.
April Fool's Day, a week.
No, I think it's a week after April Fool's Day. But that's when our presidential primary will be. We're not the only state doing that. There's multiple states, especially the ones in our region, who usually all go on that fourth Tuesday in April, have all moved their primary dates.
Okay.
And I think it's a good sign that it's bipartisan. Again, it's just making sure people understand that the change has happened and really engaging them where they are. But speaking of the presidential primary, and just to break it down, our presidential primary is not the same time as our state primary. There has been an effort to make it the same. We see the number, we see the data points that almost 70,000 people who voted in the presidential primary in April don't vote in the September primary, state primary. If you're outside the city of Wilmington, you can have a presidential primary in 2024, a school board election in 2024, a school referendum in your local municipality. Then you have your state primary, and then you have the general election in November. You could potentially be having to go to the polls almost 6 times in 1 year. I think it's important for the state to try to consolidate that, right, and build more awareness around one date, pushing more people out to the polls, encouraging more people to come out and vote. On the presidential level, just earlier this week, we saw the announcement of Ron DeSantis running for president. And let me just say this. He is 100% the Florida man. He is the embodiment of white supremacy in politics. He is doing what they did back in the 40s and the 30s in Mississippi, in Alabama, in Georgia. He's doing in present day Florida. He is attacking African Americans. He's attacking LGBTQ. He's attacking immigrants, and he's doing it. He swung his hammer and forced his legislator to pass all this legislation. And it's going to have a huge negative impact on Florida, on minority communities in Florida. People are looking to move out of Florida already. And his favorite saying is, Florida is where woke goes to die, which I feel as though is code for Black. He's strengthened laws that further discriminate against people and minorities. So this is going to be a very tough election cycle, especially on that side, with both the Florida men running against each other, between Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis.
Well, Ron DeSantis, you do believe both of them are racist.
Yeah.
But what Ron DeSantis is really banking on is that Trump gets indicted and go to jail, and he can just clear the way, so that he can go.
Trump may get more votes if he goes to jail.
You can't run. If you indicted, you can run. I think you can't run if you are guilty, found guilty. I think of a federal crime.
They'll change laws.
No, you can't change.
Florida just changed the law to allow DeSantis to run.
But some states you can't even be indicted and get on the ballot. Right. So I think he's running into some problems already. But that's what DeSantis. That's why he hasn't really criticized Trump, because he wants his followers to come and be a part of him. All right, good. I'm sorry.
And my last point, I want to talk about housing here in the state of Delaware.
Okay.
If you've been following the show the last 2 years, you've heard me talk about this, and the new report is out. And I've been saying it's 18,000. Those were old numbers. I even said that it's probably closer to 19, maybe 20 now. I was wrong. It is now almost 22,000 housing units short of affordable housing in the state of Delaware.
Wait a minute, stop a minute. You're telling me that the report came out. I just want to make sure that those of you who are watching, listening, the report came out, and now we have facts.
Yes.
We were reporting to us, and I was using those numbers, that there was about 18,000 short.
That was at the time of the last report. Yes.
So how do you find affordable housing? We're going to keep that at the front. Affordable housing. So how do you find a mayor of a city where we have a lot of people who struggle and who are majority renters, where he disapproved everyone who wants to do affordable housing, but get approved everyone who wants to do luxury housing?
Right. Again, that's what you get when you get a real estate developer as mayor. And this is why elections are so important, and consequences of those elections are important.
And I don't know if everybody knew who you were talking about or what you're talking about. You're talking about Mayor Mike Purzycki, right?
Oh, yeah.
Just wanted to make sure that we're talking about.
Oh, you're being Chris Curry now.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, call the out.
Yes.
It's not just for me. I think the state needs to step in.
Yes.
Right. This isn't just a Wilmington issue. We're seeing this all across the state. This is an issue that is really big down in Georgetown as well too, in Dover as well too.
All the areas where the poor
absolutely
are.
And I think it's hilarious that you keep seeing the state legislature pass all these tax credits. Minus the fact that you need to improve the low income housing tax credit program here. You need to look at this crisis in a few different ways. This is just my thoughts. I think you need to look at it as prevention, right? So what does that mean? Prevention should mean, how do we keep affordable housing units that we currently have, right? And how do we make sure that they're up to a certain standard, right? Because even though we have all these things on paper, it's not actually transitioning to what is reality. You have people who are living in, $700 $150 a month apartments, right?
Mhm.
Well, they're dealing with no hot water, no heat. It's mold,
Rodents.
it's rodents and everything. And the city has a rodent problem all over. Just don't even get me started on that. They need to start baiting the sores again. You need to also look at how you can help remove some of those barriers to home ownership as well too. The city of Wilmington is supposed to have a down payment program where you can get $10,000 if you're a first time home owner, first time buying your first home.
Mhm.
That's not being done right now at all. This was something that the late Councilwoman Linda Gray fought for heavily. Fought for. Actually, I'll give her even more credit. She wanted the number to be higher,
Mhm.
But I ain't happy.
but they pushed back on her, and she said, "All right, we'll go with 10." And that's what she was able to get to 7 votes for.
Mhm.
But then this administration still has not done anything.
Wow.
And we can get the money for it if we stop giving these big developers all these tax incentives,
Yeah.
subsidies, all of that, just a little bit of money could help that the home ownership of down payment. But currently, right now, no inclusionary zoning legislation is about to come up. There's going to be one on the housing trust, and then rent caps and rent increases in the city of Wilmington. So y'all gotta reach out to your legislators, man. If these legislations are going to come out, but we need community pressure
But,
for them
but
to vote
what
to
we
do the right
did
thing.
really successful a year ago when we first started the show is when a certain legislation went out, we explained what it was. And then when we put it on the screen, the legislators who voted in favor of it, especially if it was a bad piece of legislation, so that they can be held accountable and we can score them that way. But what we stopped doing that, but we got to go back to maybe just exposing people. Because I can't believe we got to do something with that zoning board.
Yeah.
Because that zoning board has a lot of issues too. I mean, you got your African American on there, and I guess he's the deciding factor for the black community, and he always vote against us. But I'm watching it, and I'm being very careful, because racism. What you just shared about how different pieces. It seems like you're in Washington. You got the Republicans who want to give all the money to the rich, and you got the Democrats who want to give all the money to the poor. So what happens is there's a struggle right here in the city. They rather give it to the developers. Get all y'all incentives. Y'all make sure y'all can build as much as y'all can build. And while you still got 22,000 affordable housing decrease or not decrease, scarcity. Whereas we need housing for our community, and we cannot get
Did
it.
they break it down by city? Is there a Wilmington number?
There is not.
Okay.
So the local housing department, I guess, would have to pull those numbers. But I will say
Who
this.
is our local housing department? You know?
No, I don't know
Okay,
who
all
the
right.
department head is.
Go ahead.
Housing for
Housing.
for the city of Wilmington? Bob Weir? You talking about him?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you.
So another another thing when it comes to this is I have no problem, right, with development at all, right?
Yeah.
I think development
It's
is needed,
needed.
right?
Absolutely.
Especially looking at some of these units that we see now. It's horrible condition. Some of these houses are in horrible condition,
Mhm.
but you can do it in a way that addresses the need that's truly there. See,
Absolutely.
the current development that's happening in the city of Wilmington is happening to bring outside entities in, right? To bring outside people in, which is good, right? That goes to the growth of the city. You need that. But you're ignoring the communities that have been here for decades, the communities that have grown roots here that still need help as well, too.
Mhm.
They should be seeing almost the same amount of investment. But instead, it seems as though going all the way back to the budget, it seems as though instead of looking at your administration and saying, how can we bring new revenue sources here, right? Which again pairs with housing, right? Brings that workforce here. They're looking to raise taxes, to raise fees as their only revenue source so that we stay in this everlasting cycle of, all right, well, now we got to put more money over here, more money over here. Sorry, we don't have enough to give to this community, which again can change in a heartbeat depending who is sitting on the ninth floor.
Yeah, well, we're gonna get into that next week. We're gonna talk a little bit more about that ninth floor because it's gonna be very important. Who sits there? But listen, this has been a great show, and I'm sorry we're out of time. I do want to make sure the community know that we will be following up if by some chance the city, or shall I say, the police department make any moves as it relates to this racism on the 1800 Delaware Avenue. You're going to be informed right away. We're going to follow this very closely because we want you to be able to see if it means it's going down to the Attorney General. If we decide we're going to do a protest, whatever we're going to do, we're going to make sure you know, because I want to show the strength that we have when we come together and have transparency. I love your language, and as well as making sure that people are held accountable. Look, this is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
Janae Darby.
See ya.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Source. Be sure to tune in next Sunday at 5 p.m.